My 24F husband 25M got a tattoo of his dead ex's name. I'm a 24-year-old woman from the southern United States and I've been married to my husband for nearly 3 years. My husband and I met in our third year of college, when I was 20. We did not go to the same high school. This is relevant. At the time, I didn't have much experience with relationships. I come from a very conservative family and had only had 2 remotely serious relationships before I met my husband, neither lasting more than a few months. My husband, however, had recently come out of a 6-year-long relationship. They had been together since the 9th grade and had only broken up a few months prior. His ex had a very rough childhood. From what I know, her parents were divorced and she was raised by her dad, who was apparently absent and verbally abusive. She got into alcohol and drugs at a very young age, in early high school, and had convinced my husband to join her. I smoke weed occasionally, but I have never done anything close to what they did, smoking packs every day, etc. My husband was uncomfortable with this lifestyle and recognized the destructiveness of it. He tried to get his ex off it for years, and they had times where they were relatively healthy, but she kept going back. He's told me he truly loved her at the time, but eventually, he couldn't take the harm it was causing his mental state anymore and he broke up with her. He was in a bad place when we met, but once he fell in love with me he really started to make a serious effort to improve his mental health. We got married and have been living happily ever since, and, what was up until now my greatest joy in life, I am pregnant with our first child. His ex, however, had not been doing so great. Her drug abuse got way worse and, last week, she unfortunately passed away. I never met her and I believe my husband that he never kept contact with her once we got together, but from what I've heard she was a very nice person who had been dealt a bad hand. I truly felt sorry for her and her passing saddened me a lot. My husband told me he didn't want me to go to her memorial service as I hadn't known her and he didn't feel it would be appropriate. Of course, I respected that and let him go out just with a group of his high school friends. He got dressed and left early in the day and I stayed home. At night, he came back and I greeted him, but when he undressed he had a bandage on his arm. I asked him what it was and he told me it was his ex's name, and showed me. I absolutely lost my shit. I began to cry as I literally saw my world shatter around me. My husband started to explain that he did it out of respect for a friend and that he didn't have any feelings for her left. I asked him if any of her other friends got a tattoo of her name. He dodged the question at first but eventually admitted that no. I don't have feelings for her, doesn't seem like a good defense to me. Even if he's telling the truth, I don't know if I'm comfortable being with someone that values a former romantic partner to this level. Tattoos have always been an intimate thing to me. I only have one tattoo, and it's of a famous magical school story, which I do regret, but I got it before the author revealed themselves as being a less than savory person. My world is basically over. I don't want to carry his baby to term anymore. I don't think it would be healthy for a child to grow up next to the kind of relationship we now have. And honestly, I don't know if I want anything to do with him anymore, but I feel so conflicted. I've never been faced with something like this before. I literally have no precedent to draw from to have any idea of how I'm supposed to feel or act. I'm just so upset. TLDR. Husband's ex recently passed away. He swears he's over her but he got a tattoo of her name in mourning. Don't know if I want to continue with this relationship anymore. Whatever happens with him, figure out the pregnancy first. Time is crucial there in a way it isn't in the marriage. Get a counselor and run through some scenarios. What would being a single mom with your ex co-parenting look like? What would birth recovery with a husband you're struggling to forgive look like? What can you not stand to endure? No matter what he says, you are right, this isn't normal or appropriate behavior. If he truly felt that he wanted to do something like that he should have told you before. If he has had a pattern of actions and choices like this I think you should go. Your happiness isn't worth any less than his. If my ex died I would show up to her funeral to show my condolences not tattoo her fucking name on myself. You have absolutely every right to be mad and angry. What he did is not normal nor classy. Sorry you're married to an idiot. He needs to cover that up. I also think you not going was inappropriate. You are his wife. A package deal. Only reason you don't go is because you are unable to make it. I would pack up and leave. There's just really no going back to such mental anguish even if it's covered up since the thoughts will continue to fester. I would leave my fiancé if he did that. In a heartbeat. No discussion. No talking it out. No second chances. Some people might think that's extreme, but in my opinion getting a tattoo like that shows such an extreme lack of good judgment that it can't be forgiven. I would never trust him or be vulnerable with him again, and that's a massive problem in any relationship. I'm not sure from your description if you're currently pregnant or not. If not, leave now. If yes, are you still able to terminate? This guy is a hot mess who never stopped loving his ex, and you were always second fiddle. Trust me, you don't want anything to do with him, let alone his unfortunate progeny. So going to the services wasn't appropriate, but getting a tattoo was? It sounds like he doesn't respect you much at all. Leave. That's some wacko behavior. Nobody who respects their partner gets a tattoo of their ex's name, especially without saying something first. He took the "it's better to beg for forgiveness than ask for permission" approach like a child who doesn't want to get grounded. He doesn't seem mature enough for your relationship or for parenthood. If I were you, that'd be a deal breaker and I'd end things, including the pregnancy, but it's ultimately you that has to think things over and decide if the relationship is worth keeping and if he is worth forgiving. Wishing you the best, X. You should go to marriage counseling. That is too big a bomb to trust the opinions of strangers on the internet. If it was a group thing where they all got tattoos, that's one thing, but that doesn't sound like the case. He might have got drunk or been too caught up in the moment with friends, but he should get it covered up and you both go to counseling together, if you still want to make this work. Your husband has the same emotional intelligence of an amoeba. Abort and divorce. Does your husband have a lot of tattoos and this particular one was an addition to a collection on his arm? Or does he not have any and this one stands out? I think that matters as well. Leave him. This man clearly has other priority when it comes to what comes first, her. He specifically had you not go because he knew he was doing it and you wouldn't be okay with it. Info. Are abortion, single parent, adoption in the question? And obviously divorce. Maybe he just got caught up in the emotions of the funeral and being with friends, etc. He might even regret it now. I think you need to tell him that he needs to find a way to cover it so that it is no longer of her name. If he refuses, then you have a big decision to make. Either he cover that name up or get a marriage counseling. I'm not saying divorce him, but don't let him off that easily. People make mistakes and sometimes people do things with rash emotions. He might have gotten her name to remember her, but he should know that he have a wife and she wouldn't be okay. That's like you getting your ex name. Doesn't matter if one is gone or not. Getting ex name is a no-no and he should know better. This is such a betrayal. How could he? What did he think? She is his past and you are his present and future. You have to look at her name every day for the rest of your life, if you stay with him. He should have talked to you first. What about your feelings? Did he think about you at all when he got the tattoo? And if you want to keep the baby, it's up to you and no one, and I mean no one here, has the right to tell you what to do. Your life, your decision. Stay strong, 4-leaf clover. I would abort the child and leave. As others have said, you've always been playing second fiddle. His action shows a complete lack of respect as he was clearly never over her. You deserve better than this. No person in his right mind would do this, unless there are some feelings involved. I can't imagine thinking it would be okay to do something like this without discussing it with my partner beforehand. That just blows my mind and it seems very selfish to me. Like, I'm going to deal with my grief in whatever ways will make me feel better and I don't care how it affects you. People have the right to grieve for a deceased ex, but their current partner should still come first. Get space, first and foremost. Either you get away or he gets away. He made an incredibly stupid mistake. What did he expect you'd think when you saw a fresh tattoo of another woman's name on him? Not the point of the post, but I liked your JKR bash. I find it silly that he didn't want you to go to the funeral. A marriage is about sharing things and helping each other out through good and bad. It's about supporting each other through tough situations. I would have been livid if my husband got another female's name tattooed on his body, especially an ex, and that isn't about respect. Not in my eyes. There's other ways to show respect for the deceased. This is disrespecting you and your marriage if you ask me. He wouldn't like it if you got your deceased ex's name tattooed on your person, if things were the other way around. Seeing her name on his body is going to drive you crazy, and you should be thinking about your baby right now, not all this craziness. You need to terminate the pregnancy and leave him. I don't have much advice, but wanted to say that it's not normal to get a tattoo of an ex years into a new relationship. It's one thing if you got it while you were in that relationship, or soon after their death. But, it's just dumbassery of the highest caliber to get it when you're expecting a child with a woman you've been with for years. He loved and respected that woman greatly, no doubt. If he had those same feelings and didn't get a tattoo, would that be okay? I don't understand how loving and respecting a dead female friend is cause for divorce. Love isn't limited. People can have more than one love of their life. People tattoo musicians and fictional characters they love and respect on themselves. He did it for a close friend during a very emotional period. Don't throw away your whole life over this. I suggest you get to know this woman and become her friend too. Then the tattoo will have positive significance to you when. Or, ask your husband to remove it if you can't overcome it. He can get the tattoo removed, but it won't remove the feeling he's lying about having for his ex. Therapy isn't going to erase the tattoo on his arm. I feel so hurt for you, especially with you being pregnant. Please do what you think is best for you and do it quickly. Honestly, I'd get an abortion and move on. Life is too short to tether yourself to a person like your husband. You are sure that they did not maintain contact before her death? Really, that sounds like an EA. If you are early enough in the pregnancy and it aligns with your personal morals, I'd suggest considering an abortion and a divorce. You are young, you can start over. Oh no, honey. This is so awful. I cannot even begin to imagine your pain. The betrayal and anguish you must feel over this must be unbearable. I wouldn't wish this on anyone. I would terminate and leave. He has zero respect for you and clearly still had feelings for her. Why isn't your name tattooed on him? I can't believe someone would do something so disgusting. That is so disrespectful on another level. Ludicrous. He did it for another woman that he was meant to not have contacted for years. He should get it removed. Have you told him your feelings? He might wake up if you told him you were struggling with your pregnancy. Hope it works out for you and hope you do welcome the baby to the world. You are so right. My partner's ex died shortly before he and I got together. She was the mother of his children. It was very painful for him and is frequently to this day. They had been separated when she passed. He would never, ever. When he does do things to honor her, for the kids and for himself, he always checks in with me that I'm comfortable with how I'm affected. Your husband could have potentially found a way to honor her that was much more healthy. OMG, I could not handle if my partner were to do that. I'm so sorry you are going through this. That's got to be so painful. I think perhaps your husband is going through a very difficult time emotionally. As are you now, of course. I think you need to ask him what's really going on and encourage him to seek help or counseling together before you consider leaving him. That said, if you feel like this is a bad time to bring a child into the world, end the pregnancy. But you should discuss that with him first. I would lose my shit. Like all of it. No idea why he or the people with him thought that would be a good idea. Can only assume alcohol was involved. However, grief does the worst things to people. All the memories and what-if questions. Tattoos can get covered up, etc., but there's definitely a deeper issue. Firstly, your baby. Secondly, your mental health, and then his. Space and some hindsight are wonderful things. Look after yourself and baby first, and he'll need to do the same. I'm 100% pro-abortion, but it's the most serious decision of your life, so I'd advise a calm and rational discussion with a person or people you trust your life to. I feel so bad for you, sweetheart, but I'm betting you're stronger than you know, heart. I think getting any tattoo before at least discussing it your spouse would be really uncool. This is beyond the pale. Was he drunk? He is so not over her. Being so emotionally invested to get a tattoo of your ex before getting one of your current wife? Yeah, that's a hard no for me. I think it was extremely disrespectful and I for one would leave. You now have a difficult decision to make, but even if you stay he needs to make him going to greed counseling or therapy a point if he wants you to stay. Good luck op and don't let him gaslight you into staying by making you feel like any of this is your fault. Location flag and you know it op. The opposite of love is indifference. There is no in-between without feelings. Move on in whatever way is best for you to lead an independent and more confident life. It's SHT and I really feel for you, but at least you found out now and can move on sooner. This is disturbing. I feel for you, op. I couldn't imagine this reality. Reading the replies, it seems as though my advice would be the same, so I just want to let you know that you are not crazy. Your husband went way over the line, and I completely understand your feelings. My first love is still my closest, best friend today. He met his now wife 2 years after we broke up, and she is every bit as important to me as him. I once talked to her about a thought I had about a tattoo to commemorate our friendship, and she loved it. I'm still considering it, because of our 17 years of knowing, loving and going through some seriously tough times together. But if I decide to get it, I'm going to ask her again. Because her feelings are every bit as important as his. It was clearly not just an ex, but a close friend. If it was one of his male friends you wouldn't care. Why care now? This is wild. A couple months ago there was a post where a girl got a tattoo of a dude's name who abused her after he died, spent an hour crying in the tub every day, and the boyfriend was feeling insecure about it, and the fucking peanut gallery here was saying he was an insecure poss, and her trauma and pain were totally valid and she should not cover up the tattoo. Bunch of damn hypocrites. He does not have both feet in this marriage. Now, you said you live in southern state. If it is Texas and you can't afford to abort, there is the Lilith Fund that helps fund procedures. I'm sorry this happening, but it will become even more difficult once the baby is born. Things are going to get messy with you feeling this way, rightfully so in my opinion. This isn't a happy climate to bring a baby into. If you're okay with abortion, I think you get it and move on, and find someone who doesn't disrespect you this way. I mean, he did date her for how long, and he has a right to tattoo whatever he wants on his body. You can't control that. It's just his way of coping. Now, I'm not saying it was the smartest way to go about it, but at one point she was his everything. She was a childhood friend, and just cause they dated and was his ex doesn't mean they weren't best friends at a time. That man has changed so much for you, and you really gonna do him like that? I would disagree with most of the comments that said that you don't tattoo a friend's name, only a lover. A friend of mine killed himself a few years ago, and me and some of his closest friends had his name tattooed soon after the funerals. It's our way to remember a friend who shared difficult times with us. Your world has not shattered and it's not over. That kind of drama means you're not hearing him and you're not communicating anything useful. Take it down several notches and have a real, honest conversation with him where you articulate how this affects you, ask clear questions, etc. Ask him to explain it carefully.